Hey guys, welcome to Prague. Today we'll explore one of the most popular parks in Prague called Letná Park. So let's check it out. So at the beginning of the 19th century, most of Letna was owned by Jakub Wimmer, who had vineyards here. In 1840s, the city of Prague purchased most of the land and that was the beginning of the public park here. And the way it looks today, it's mostly from the end of 19th century when it was designed by František Josef Thomayer, a famous garden architect in Prague. Now Letná is famous for its views, so let's check one of the best views on Prague, which is by the Hanau pavilion. So Hanau pavilion was built in 1891 by Prince von Hanau, who was the owner of the largest ironworks in Bohemia. And it was built in 1891 for industrial exhibition within the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The exhibition grounds were located about 2 kilometers to the northeast from here. They were located in Výstaviště area. And after the exhibition ended, Prince Hanau decided to give this pavilion to the city of Prague, who in 1898 decided to place the pavilion here. It is very innovative. You know, it was built out of cast iron, which was innovative for the time. And it's built in neo-Baroque style. And there's a restaurant today which offers beautiful view on the city of Prague. So let's focus on the view now. So here we have one of the best viewpoints on Prague. We can see the little quarter on the right side. Right below that building with the green dome and 2 flags, there's the seat of government called Strakas Academy. Then we have the river coming from the south, turning east. And here we can see many bridges. There are 18 bridges in Prague. The most famous is the Charles Bridge with the statues. That's the second one from here. And then over ahead of us is the Old Town. We can see Rudolfinum, that's a concert hall from 1881. Then we can see the Tyne Church. That was one of the most important churches in Middle Ages. You know, it's located on the Old Town Square, which is the heart of the Old Town. Then further we have the New Town, you know, around the Old Town. And then around the historical center of Prague we have these formerly industrial neighborhoods such as Karlín, right by the river. Then further around that hill is Žižkov. Then we have Vinohrady neighborhood. Actually the border between Žižkov and Vinohrady is marked by the TV tower. The tallest building in the Czech Republic with 216 meters. Then we have Vinohrady neighborhood, very nice residential area. And then in the back on the skyline you can see there are few skyscrapers. You know, in Prague there are restrictions on the height of the building and you can't build over certain height. Only in certain locations they allow skyscrapers. So Pankrář is one such area. So most of the skyscrapers are from the 90s. So really one of the most beautiful views on Prague. I definitely recommend to visit this place. So guys, now let's check out another really cool spot in Letná Park that locals call Stalin, and I'll explain to you why in a minute. So let's check it out. So Letná Park is a very popular place for various leisure activities such as skateboarding, inline skating, jogging. People come here in summer for the picnics, and also it's a cool spot for a date. And you know, everywhere you go, as you follow this edge of the hill, you know, you can enjoy these beautiful views on Prague. So one such spot, for example, is right here. All right, so let's continue to Stalin now. So now we're standing in an area that's called by locals Stalin. And why? Well, because on that platform over there used to be one of the largest statues in the world. It was a statue of Stalin. Now, in 1948, Stalin celebrated his 70th birthday, and the local Czech Communist Party wanted to give him a present. So they decided to build a huge statue of him. It was Stalin in front, 15 meters tall. Then behind him, there were four men. They were a worker, a scientist, a collective farmer, and a soldier of the Red Army. Allegedly, these four people were behind him, so people couldn't see Stalin's butt, because that could be humiliating. It took 6 years to build, so finally it was finished in 1955. Few days before it was finished and officially opened to the public, the author, Otakar Švec, he committed suicide. He couldn't withstand the terrible pressure from people that he's building a statue, a monument to one of the worst dictators in human history, who's responsible for deaths of millions of people. Anyway, so the statue was finished in 1955. It stood there for 7 years. Only for 7 years. Why? Because in 1956, Nikita Khrushchev, who was the successor of Stalin, he started to criticize Stalin for the fact that he was a criminal, you know, as I said, responsible for deaths of millions of people. So suddenly it wasn't acceptable to have his statue here anymore. So it stood there for only 7 years, and then finally in 1962, they blew it up. First, allegedly, they chopped his head off so it wouldn't fall down the hill and destroy the bridge. And then the rest of the body was blown up. And the platform is still here. Where the statue stood, they placed in 1991 a pendulum, metronome, which is modern art. The red stick is allegedly, when it's in the middle, is the same height as the statue of Stalin. And it's moving slowly, which symbolizes the changes of the regimes and the flow of time. In September 1996, Michael Jackson had one of the biggest concerts of his career here in Prague. He rented the entire top floor of Hotel Intercontinental, which is that building right across the river by the bridge, and he had a statue of himself placed right next to the metronome, so he could watch himself from his room, his statue. It was quite bizarre. Anyway, the concert took place on Letná field, which is right behind the metronome, and it was attended by 130,000 people, with many more thousands around the fans who couldn't get in. And as I said, one of the biggest concerts of his career. Anyway, let's check out the platform right behind the metronome, where it's a popular place for skateboarders. So let's go. You know, often also you can see a lot of athletes who just run up the stairs all the way from the river, all the way up here. So it's some good exercise. So guys, now we reached the top. Again, one of the most beautiful views on Prague. And here we have the metronome. So it's a beautiful example of kinetic art in Prague. And this area here is a very popular place for young locals, you know, sort of like underground, who come here, have a drink. And around this area, around the former Stalin monument, there is one of the largest street skate parks in Prague. Now let's move over to the northern part of Letná Park, where there's a field where some of the biggest demonstrations in the Czech history took place. So here on this field in November 1989, the biggest demonstration in the Czech history took place. There were protests against the communist government. Close to 800,000 people protested here. And you see that stadium over there, there's a stadium of Sparta Prague, and in the middle there's a little platform. And from that platform, the representatives of the opposition, such as Václav Havel or Alexander Dubček, gave a speech to the crowd. So this was the beginning of the Velvet Revolution and the end of the communist regime in Czechoslovakia. So guys, this field here is, by the way, where the Jackson concert took place with 130,000 people. And now we'll be heading toward Letná Palace, which is a beautiful, beautiful palace and a restaurant today. So in Letná Park, there's a lot of things to do. You know, there's a children's playground where you can go with your kids. Then over here, like, you can have a beer. A lot of places where you can have a beer in Letna. And our favorite place is the beer garden, which is by the Letná Palace. So let's have a beer there. So Letná Park, because of its location above the old town, it was an ideal strategic location for army encampments throughout the history. So for example, in 1421, the Emperor Zikmund, when he was besieging the Hussite Protestant Prague, he chose Letna as his main camp. Then later in 18th century, early 18th century, the French army that was besieging Prague also chose this as their main encampment. Or later in 1968, when Czechoslovakia was invaded by the armies of the Warsaw Pact, the Soviet helicopters were landing here in Letna. So always a ideal place for army encampments. So now we reach the Letná beer garden. This is one of the most popular outdoors beer gardens in Prague. You know, it's very busy in summer. You would be struggling normally to find a table here. However, now, because they don't serve draught beer, and we don't like to drink canned beer, so we'll probably skip on it this time. And right on the opposite side, you can see Letenský zámeček, Letná Palace, that was built in 1863 by a famous architect, Mr. Ullmann. And it was built as a restaurant and like a summer palace and a restaurant. It's used for weddings as well. And it's very nice on the inside. So the wedding ceremony usually takes place here in this little altan. It was originally built for the musicians, for the band, but now people have their ceremony here, and then the dinner is inside in the first floor. There are many salons and it's quite pretty. Very pricey as well to have a wedding here. So guys, here on the ground we have a memorial and a leftover of a railroad. This was the first electric tram in Prague, built in 1891 by a Czech inventor, František Krizik. So the rail track led from here to the Viceroy Palace near Stromovka, from where it was only a few steps to reach the exhibition grounds. So this was built also in 1891 for that industrial exhibition, just like the Hanau pavilion. And also what they built to facilitate the transfer of people, you know, from the city center to the exhibition grounds, they also built a funicular. So people would take the funicular up the Letná hill, then jump on the tram and then go to Stromovka. It wasn't a very fast ride, you know, the maximum speed of the tram was 10 kilometers per hour, so if you ran, you would overrun it. And the track was 1.4 kilometers long. And then over here, what's worth mentioning is this carousel, which is the oldest carousel in Europe, built in 1894, and it's currently under reconstruction. Yeah, so guys, now we'll check out where the funicular from 1891 ended. So they made a little memorial here, which is quite new. And that funicular led from the bridge up here. It was over 100 meters long, and it transferred, you know, over elevation difference of 38 meters. So that way people could get easily from down there up here, and then they would hop on the tram and continue to the industrial exhibition. What's interesting is that the funicular was made by Ringhofer company. You know, Ringhofer was the biggest manufacturer of trams and trains in the Austrian Empire, and he had a huge factory in Smíchov neighborhood. So this was done by him as well. All right, guys, so this is the end of our short tour of Letná Park. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, don't forget to subscribe. You can also check our website, lucytours.com, if you're interested in virtual or regular tours. and I look forward to seeing you on our next tour. So have a good one.